and a one and a bing. It's the marketing show. It's Sam and Federico, and here we are. It is the Wednesday on which we do the little marketing hoedown, and I've got the Google Doc of power at hand. I was just in the process of writing down some notes about things to talk to. What was the one? There was the fast forward. Newsletter. Yeah. Is there anything on your mind of a marketing bent?
Nope, nothing.
Oh, right. That's easy then. Just going through the action items. I mean, I think I'm going to remove that as it being very old and so on. I noticed just looking at how the VS Code open source project on GitHub, they have like bots that kind of like automatically close things if tickets if they haven't been chatted about for a while. It's interesting.
Oh, really?
That's actually interestingly, the VS Code is the most active open source project on GitHub, I believe.
What's number 2?
I think it's React Native.
Oh, really?
But I hear in this podcast that I was listening to the other day, but
okay,
that may or may not be true or may have changed. But certainly those two are very active. So we're still blocked on this, but Nico is working now on this new document model of loading stuff like the Odin project style. So that is nice. This was our sort of chat before about all the different things. We've actually upgraded to Rails 5. The site is on Rails 5, and nobody is running around with their hair on fire. And I've just been asked Stamatius to maybe work on that. But those can all be removed. In the React mob, I continue to like muck around with a new getting started stuff. Let's put all those done. The client for NHS has said that they're not really interested in mobile support. Yeah, those two are the same there. Yeah, Rochelle and Juliet were invited. That's sorted. We did last week. We explored deploying the podcast. It was deployed. I note that in the process of deploying it, it kind of reset, like in my iTunes on my iPhone. Like the episodes that I'd listened to were marked as unlistened to. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's because we added new files.
I guess the file name changed.
Yeah. Well, we totally replaced them, and some of them were the file names changed.
Yeah.
Which we need to fix. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll take care of that, by the way.
Okay. Yeah, and then so you last week you were saying like or was it before? So 18th of March, like this Sunday, for episode 6.
Right. Yes.
I've mentioned the GPDR issue at the Website One meeting, and I've created a ticket for that, so that's off to there. I did a new proposal which you saw. Thank you for checking that. I did also query the Women and Girls Network about their requirement to have 2 years worth of accounts. They have not replied to me. I think it's probably not, worth particularly following up. Our action items are kind of being whittled away. So we were just talking before we came on air about how great it is that Federico trails the TDD mob so well, and I was just like kind of basking in his reflected glory, but thinking that maybe some way that I could like capture a tiny fragment of Federico's glorious thing there is maybe add previous day reminders for the mobs that I'm running, so that they'll automatically say the day before it's coming tomorrow at this time, and it should like add a link to the overall topic. So even if I can't get myself together to like say we're doing exactly this tomorrow, because it changes and what have you, that would be a good thing to do. So let's put that in an action item. So the fast forward people, I mean, I had some conversation with them. They had said in principle that we are eligible to apply to their program before, and they kind of like the idea of Agile Ventures. I mean, but that's all just random chat. I mean, it's like at least there's not a blocker that they're aware of. it turns out that their program seems to include, it's basically like you get $25,000 towards your non-profit tech startup, and you also get a series of training events in San Francisco, which I hadn't realized. And so they were saying like it's like 2 days every second week or something. And so at least one person must attend. So I guess we could apply for this. And I mean, I guess it's then a question of, can we find somebody who could be in San Francisco for some number of days over the summer?
So this would be every second week for like 3 months or something?
Well, it's a good question. So this is we've got over here. This is the fast forward. How long does it last for? That's the frequently asked questions. This is the application. Apply now. Can it tell us more about the? Say here, it runs. Is there a date? Find out more about the accelerator here. And the idea is that you then get mentored by lots of people who are clever and know what they're talking about. Get schooled, get connected, read our FAQ, but then it then does not say how long. I like they talk about something. I assume it's like, as you say, like for 3 months, 2 or 3 months, I guess, in the summer. They've got demo at the end of it. No. So, but yeah, I mean, I guess we can assume 2 or 3 months where one would need to be in San Francisco every other week. I mean, I guess we've got people like, I think, where's Nick based? Nick's on the West Coast.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess the thing is, it might be just, if it's relatively straightforward to apply for it, we might as well apply for it. And then if we get it, and then, we could even use some of this money to pay for travel for whoever is closest to kind of get there and be there.
Yeah, interesting. We should fly you out there.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's like that much more expensive to come from Europe. So, but well, I mean, yeah, it's what would be lovely to see would be like an agenda and dates from them. That would make that easier to plan. But of course, that's all kind of academic if we haven't actually been accepted into it. So, but it looks like, I mean, it like these folks are trying to accelerate tech nonprofits, which is what we are. And so, I mean, there may also be the case like, no, I think they said like, even if you haven't incorporated, I was going to think like, is it going to be an issue if we're like from Europe instead of from US? I mean, we're still trying to get this American 501(c)(3) set up, but they've like, we haven't formally incorporated them, and that's fine. You can be just starting, for them in the beginning. They seem to be happy with this. But what do they actually call this? They call it, it's the Fast Forward Accelerator. Accelerator program dates. The 13 weeks training program. Connections to 100 high caliber mentors. Yeah.
I wonder what qualifies one as a high caliber mentor.
I suspect people who have got their own, successful tech nonprofits or, successful tech companies and this, that, and the other. But yes, I mean, there was actually on at least one of their pages, they've got, click on Accelerator selection criteria. There was on their, I think their main page, they had, like, there was a list of some of the, it wasn't this page, was it? Partner with us. There was, oh, why is that scrolling so slowly? Come back here. Oh gosh. Come back. Go on. Wait, really? Volunteer partner. What's fast forward? Accelerated 2019. I thought when we scrolled down in here, mentors. Lismo founder. Cal Foundation Senior Program Officer. BlackRock Associate Product Management. Net Impact Millennium School co-founder and CEO. There you go. Google Design Manager. Google Giving Principal. Airbnb PR Specialist. So I think there's a lot of people from the tech industry who kind of Adobe, who want a Mithril, want to give Dropbox, want to give, want to like have all the exciting tech venture stuff, but happening for nonprofits as well. Coinbase.
Yeah, I imagine it would also be good for networking and.
Oh, it would be extraordinary.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, I mean, and the about now thing is then basically we have to create a startup profile on AngelList is the step. So I mean, I guess I will.
Oh really? I just created a profile just a few hours ago.
Oh, on AngelList?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
I forgot I got led there. I don't know. I forgot how.
Right. You created a profile for Agile Ventures or just for you personally?
No, just for myself as a.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I have definitely. I'm fairly sure I've been in AngelList before. But yeah. So. Okay. I guess I won't do that immediately now. Let's look at anything else that needs to come up. Go on.
Yeah, I just recalled. I was looking for searching for Elixir jobs. That's what I was doing.
Right. Right. So you might be, if we were building like artificial pancreases with Elixir, you'd be interested.
Yeah, especially if we do work with nerves, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. Cool beans. Okay, so that's an action item. I'll apply for that. We'll see what happens. Cool. Other things on my mind were, last Wednesday I went to a internal communications. It went to digital charities event, which are turning out to be quite fun. And the one that I went to was all about internal communications, and it was actually at the offices of Amnesty International. And Amnesty International were presenting how some of their internal communication strategies, and obviously they're a much bigger organization than us. One of the things that they doing, I mean, they have all these different legacy systems, is they're trying to sort of like, and they've got all these offices down around the world. They're trying to like promote, like to let everybody in Amnesty know the stuff that's going on in Amnesty. You know what I mean? And so they're kind of like sharing blogs, and their main, sort of to sum it up, it was that people seem to respond best to stories about people that had pictures of people, right? So some of their highest clicked on things that go out in their mailing lists and whatever are stuff about like introducing the head of Amnesty International Hungary with picture of that person, and like stuff about their answer to their top 5 questions of like how they're gonna make a difference, and this, that, and the other. So it was interestingly unclear exactly how engaged people were, and then we had this discussion about how you measure engagement. But it made me think about the newsletter again, which I have obviously, as you know, I have kind of mixed feelings about, because I often wonder, for the effort that goes into it, what's the what's the payback, so to speak. But I guess it made me think, and again, about an idea I had before, which is about profiling members in the newsletter. I think I imagine that if kind of maybe the top story in the newsletter had a picture of the face of the person that it was about, and that it was about a person in Agile Ventures who was doing a thing. And so, for example, it could be we've got the community award winners.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I was sort of imagining that's the kind of thing that people would sort of like connect with, and they could read about, and then it's like, potentially if they're reading about a real person and the story of how they're involved and what they're doing, that's something that they would then see as, oh, right, that person's doing it that way. Oh, that's potentially, I could emulate it. And it might help get more people involved, even just create a positive sense of, here are what who are the people who are in the community? Because we exist in this kind of Slack, this sort of impersonalized weird thing. And anyway, that was just an idea that I had off that event.
Yeah. And I do recall you posted that, I think at almost the same time as when we sent out the newsletter. And I just remember looking at our newsletter, and I think I saw the numbers at the time. I'm trying to pull it up here. That when I sent it out, sorry, I'm trying to find it. I had the Rails Girls picture that they had on their fundraiser. And I think that the clicks were higher because, I mean, it was sort of a group photo. And so that sort of resonated when you said that.
Right,
like,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rails Girls and group photo. Yeah, and I think, yeah, a photo doesn't have to be focused on an individual. So I guess that kind of that meeting left me feeling, I'm kind of, it sort of warmed me back up to like, you know, it resonated with me, the idea about people's faces and, you know, stories and so on, that's the kind of way to get, you know, it's sort of what you know, really engages people in this sort of faceless world of numbers, and what helps communities grow. So yeah, that kind of made me feel more positive about the next run of the newsletter. I'm
sorry, go ahead.
No,
finish with that.
Yeah, well, I was gonna maybe, oh yeah, it's a lovely image. Made me feel more positive about the next round of the newsletter, and of course, then we're kind of, obviously we were a bit under par at the moment. We'd love, you know, Joe to be here and kind of this, that, and the other, but I guess we could have a conversation about, you know, things to go in the next newsletter. How are you feeling about doing? I mean, not you personally, because you don't. I'm not going to put it onto you, but what are your thoughts about, you know, newsletter versus podcast versus, you know, focusing exclusively on programming? Like, what's your motivation level for these different things?
So just one last thought on that. What we were just talking about. I don't know if I mentioned that. I think the clicks were up.
Yeah.
For that. Yeah. My thoughts on the newsletter. I think we need to sort of just keep it moving along. Just we need to create a list of what we need to do, and just, I think it's necessary. It's not the most fun thing, but it feels good when we get it done.
Yeah.
And I think it really is worthwhile. But
yeah,
we just need to consider it like work that we got to do, and just sort of help motivate each other to get it done.
Yeah. So should we just start with a list of topics of what might go into the next newsletter?
Yeah, sure.
So the first, I think it would be nice to have a community awards thing, and, you know, focus on one recipient. I guess we've also got, there's the My Note Boats design sprint. And other things that have happened recently. We could, there's the Kisumu, what are they? They're like a work group. we could do a little focus on them. You know what I mean, right? This is Sigu and his team.
Yeah.
Because I think that's a really interesting kind of background story. And it's great to have them. Anything else going on? I guess we've now got the Met Plus on the non-profit program with us. It's paid support, and so that's development restarting. I guess other things that could go in there. There's also Y and RunFunk and RFM, both more active recently. Oh yeah, and I guess then there's like AV on Rails 5. Anything else?
Nothing comes to mind.
And I think that's more than enough. I mean, I think probably almost 3 items is from my perspective enough for a newsletter, given how few people will scroll down.
And maybe like an education component and like something promotional,
Yeah, we've certainly had feedback about people like the education things. I wonder if this one could be like, if there could be an educational component to that, by presenting it of saying like, either about design sprints or about React Native. I guess, and this one could be like an education about Rails upgrades. But yeah, if we think of another, thing that
should we focus on like a promotional component as well?
When you say promotional component, you mean?
I have no idea. Like the Facebook sort of thing.
The Facebook sort of thing. You mean the fact that people can get premium mob access by following us on Facebook, or what do you mean?
Yeah. Well, usually we've had like 1 or 2 promotional things like that to follow us, or like the sponsorship one from last time.
Yeah, I mean, I think the this is like we can work in there like premium members eligible to participate.
Yeah, sure.
In upcoming paid projects. Yeah, and then there's I think the usual thing you have at the top. It's like accelerate your professional development. Can sort of be there. Doesn't have to be a long art. Just like
any featured blogs this time?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's my blogs on the My Design Sprint. The blogs are going. I'm continuing to push them out. I none immediately spring to my mind as ones that we should.
Nobody's like volunteered any. Like last time we featured.
Blogs. Well, I guess right. So there's blogs from other people. We've got Will had sort of a big insight that he was sharing in the AV. So Will might blog about the Y thing, and Nico has been writing a lot of blogs and stuff that are on Medium. So those could be shared. There's also Sigu's group, like Crafty has a education blog on Python, so that could be featured. So I think that's for today. We're not short of material there.
Yeah, it might be too much.
Yeah. So we'll trim down. But so, I mean, shall you and I get it done together? I mean, let's, I think we get newsletter done and move towards it. Like, I'm not saying anything needs to be. I think you should, if you're going to do the podcast this weekend, then focus on that, and next week we'll come back around and look at this list again, and I need to go back through my Design Sprint blogs and like add links to videos and clean them up a bit, and yeah, we can like start kicking stuff around. Yeah,
sure.
Cool. On the podcast, I think particularly if the Minot Boat main contract comes through, I do I now feel sympathetic to just using SoundCloud. I it feels challenging for me to devote any more programmatic time to it. You were saying last week that you now felt confident about doing deploys, on the GH Pages stuff. So yeah, you were saying that you would you're gonna take another pass on the podcast metadata.
Yeah, I mean, it would require like manual fixes, but
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I would say, yeah, see how you go. I would just say this starts to seem like a reasonable fee to save the time, particularly if we have the Minot Boat thing come through.
Yeah. What's the status on that? Friday?
So that's the client has said that yes, they will make the first deposit payment by Friday. So I mean, it's this. I don't know. There's a funny thing. I really start to appreciate those periods in my life where I had somebody paying a regular paycheck, and there's something about regular paycheck coming in, and it just when you're kind of dealing in this sort of freelance, the payment might come through, it might not come through. It's a different world. But yeah, so the mood music is good. I haven't heard anything this week, but bitter past experience tells me that it's all kind of meaningless until money arrives in one's bank account.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess there's other thing is there's these. So the podcast, yeah, that reminds me. Noel Rappin, of course, whose book that you're working through TDD. I was listening to his podcast the other day, and yeah, they're starting to do more training things. I was just reflecting how, with the combination of the book and the podcast, and then from there, they're kind of starting to offer some training events online and so on, and how they're building a kind of a really what seems from my perspective like quite a trustworthy brand. Makes me think I should go back in time 5 years and write a book, but I don't know. It's like personally I wouldn't necessarily want to get trapped with a book that was specifically about Rails testing. I mean, I have got this whole book on Agile that I'm the editor and probably I'll become co-author on soon. Yeah, maybe that will anyway. But
you should write something totally different, something that so it can be like something sort of ephemeral, like a front-end JavaScript, not like React, but like something that'll last. So that you don't have to edit it every 3 months.
Yeah, interesting. So we had this whole, we got these new volunteers. Last week I got set up with I added Joe to the Do It them, explain the process in the private intern channel. And we haven't heard, I assume she hasn't done anything on it. And I guess I'm sort of there like, do I then kind of take it over because I haven't heard from her, or what do I do? And I'm left in this weird setup, but I guess that's probably, I don't know if there's any more to be said about that today.
How, just quickly, how like urgent is that?
Well, it's this thing of, there are people applying for volunteer positions, like I don't know if any of them recently was sales intern, but like the one that seems to be particularly popular is we've got a junior developer position sort of advertised, and there's like a like a handful of like 6 or 7 people who are recently applied for that, and then I think one of them has applied for our UX sort of position. And so in terms of getting them engaged, the quicker that they get a response and can potentially get involved, the better. Although the reality is that of the 6 or 7 people who we've had come through on that, people seem to, I don't know, they maybe don't get Agile Ventures, or they don't get engaged. So it's like, I've got as far as getting some of these, volunteer junior developers into a Scrum, but it's almost like they then don't get set up with the software, or they just like, I think the reason that the junior developer volunteer thing is attractive is I think there's lots of people, who are maybe finishing up their studies, they've just graduated, whatever, being able to say that they volunteered as a junior developer is the position that they want. Of course, they'd love to have a paid junior developer position. That's very attractive for lots of people. But so, volunteer junior developer, that's maybe a step in the right direction. And if I was in one of their positions, the thing that would then make sense would be like to do it and then like come to a Scrum, like every day and kind of engage. Do you know what I mean? And like participate almost on a kind of like full-time or half-time and just make it happen. But I don't know. I mean, conceivably, it's they can't understand what I'm saying because I'm blah, 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 or that would be so much more comfortable for people, and they would kind of like, all right, I'm going to be here from 9 to 12 and get some stuff done, and then and like there's going to be somebody in the office who I can ask what I need. I don't know. I don't know if even then that would still not generate anything particularly of value to our organization. And so, sorry, that the diatribe is basically to say, well, conceivably, amongst the 6 or 7 people who've applied, there might be somebody who gets really engaged. And so if we kind of reach out to these people and so on, we might find that person. Then again, all of them we have this funny thing of like, if we reach out, it takes a certain amount of effort and energy, and then people then responding and then needing like, oh, how do I get into Slack? How do I get set up with this thing? There's again another series of effort of like, 2x or 3x of the original. Like I think the way I would break it up is I would say like, we've got like it would take, if you know what you're doing, basically 10 minutes to reach out to the people, more or less. If we spend that 10 minutes reaching out to the people, there's probably, let's say, 30 minutes of Sam's time to help, or of some of admin, possibly me. I mean, this is my hope was that conceivably Jo would be able to, if she was sending the emails CC to me, people would be responding. She, knowing as much as she does about Slack and whatever, would be able to respond to them and say, oh, hey, yeah, you do this, and so that wouldn't necessarily have to have been I think it's to get connected, really. It wouldn't have had to necessarily be my time. And then kind of, sort of for every person who connects, then and if it's like actually onboarded them into a project, then there's like maybe 20 minutes of Sam time. to get them set. And then, you know, so far we've had no actual work done by the junior developer volunteers that I'm aware of. We have, interestingly, through this thing that, like, we've got our new trustee came in through the Do It system. Joe came in through the Do It system. So we've got, you know, like, for certain categories of volunteers, you know, using the Do It thing has worked out quite well. But as regards these junior developer volunteers, this is the deal. I just find myself really conflicted about it, because partly I was like, oh, well, I could just sort of do this for 10 minutes, but then am I setting myself up for, you know, losing an hour's time down the road, you know, over the course of the next week for no actual benefit?
Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, if we had at least one who put in at least one pull request or something. Yeah.
So, I mean, I think probably what the thing to do is, out of sort of politeness on my part, I'll leave it another week and see if Joe indicates anything. If it's another week and I hear nothing from Joe, then I'd probably be tempted just to do it myself, so that I can, and maybe CC her and you on the process. And, you know, yeah, there we go. So wait a week for Joe on volunteer thing. And if nothing, to it himself. It's interesting. I noticed from my GitHub logs that all the notifications. So there are other projects where, I mean, I was telling you already about the VS Code, where they have a bot that I think closes tickets that have been, like, that there's been no activity for 3 months, and interestingly, it closes them and locks them, which seems deeply insulting to me, to the people who, like, you know, brought up the issue. I mean, it's one thing to close it; it's nothing to lock it. Anyway, I don't know. Maybe they've had problems, but I was noticing that I'd be making a suggestion to the Capybara folks about, you know, a potential change in their output format that would make it easier to track down bugs. And I had a little chat with the person with that, and this is like 6 months ago. And they're sort of saying pull request welcome, but it was sort of like, I can't really devote the time to it. And they closed the issue the other day, saying, you know, there's been no follow up. You know, pull request welcome kind of thing, which is interesting. It's there's a sort of like ongoing cleanup process that I haven't particularly been, you know, I sort of tend to, like, leave everything open and endlessly, like all the tickets in website 1 and log support and whatever, on the off chance that somebody will keep doing something. You know, we have volunteers come in and they start thinking about something, and I want to leave it open for them for the chance to do it. But maybe we should be more aggressive about, you know, if a volunteer can't get stuff done in a couple of weeks, we just close the ticket, and then, do you know what I mean? And then it kind of reduces the noise for other volunteers coming in, and maybe part of the problem is that the whole noise of the system from all of the previous, you know, volunteer, you know, half-started, unfinished volunteer activity puts off the new volunteers. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, maybe, but perhaps going into maybe organizing it a little more, maybe like beginner-friendly type of labels might be better. What was that thing you did recently that you came up with a label? I forgot what you did recently, that you posted it like on GitHub.
Yeah, I posted. I was like, realized that, you know, this was just in. I haven't actually even used them yet, but this was on the React repo, where I was just starting to put some issues together for, you know, things that, you know, different things that might need to get done on here. And it occurred to me that, So then I was like, do I set up into Waffle? Do I link into Waffle? And it's kind of overkill for this, which is not necessarily. But I created complex task, medium task, and simple task as the kind of 1, 2, and 3. That was.
Yeah.
Is that the one you think of?
No, yeah, that was it. That was it. Yeah, I was trying to recall what that was exactly, but yeah.
So
yeah,
yeah.
I don't know about closing issues. It does seem rude to just close and lock.
Well, you know, there's locking certainly, but I think closing. I mean, it's you know, it's almost like actually people might respect that if you say like, you know, here's this thing, and you know, we have a kind of like a 2-week sprint cycle going on. So if you don't get the thing done within the 2-week sprint cycle, we're going to close it. And you can reopen it if you want to get involved, but that it was basically you didn't have time to do it, and then it makes it possible for someone else to pick up on the thing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I conversely, I've actually had, so for example, with Aaron, who sort of dropped off recently, he originally, you know, I think opened this pull request on this after. I mean, I did some sessions with him and got some work or whatever with a bit of code, and it's working, but it needs tests. And he was like, "Oh, you guys doing a sprint, right? So I'll have to close this down." And I was like, "Well, no, you can leave it open and kind of carry on working on it in a kind of, you know, the kind of sort of fuzzy, open-ended way that I do." But that didn't actually get into the point where he committed the tests, and I wonder if, like across the projects that I run, just a stronger commitment to sprints and basically kind of clearing out, you know, making sure that the board kind of gets cleared out every 2 weeks, and that we follow that, you know, sprint, scrum, agile cycle, which is sort of what you know, we're supposed to be all about. Sorry, I interrupted you. The you were telling me that it's kind of rude to close the tickets.
Yeah, I don't know if I have further thoughts on that. I think we should wrap up.
Yeah, we probably should. Yeah, I think it's. I'm starting to think that my, you know, open-ended, loosey-goosey work. Sometimes people respect being like, okay, yeah, we're doing this. You close it. But yes, time to wrap up. Yep, I think we are done. Good stuff. All right. So have you got a Phoenix mob coming up now or something?
No, normally, so everything's pushed back an hour. So normally I would be starting up the Ethereum mob or the
it's
called now, but that's pushed back an hour. Yeah, this time changing. Is anything going to change in terms of? I know you kind of like to move things during time change season.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have our own time change in the UK in 10 days.
Yeah,
that will prompt me to move some things from UTC. But and then, you know, it's certainly a good time if you want to suggest changes to timings for other things. That's a good time to do it.
Yeah, I'm kind of starting to hate moving stuff around. Not really hate. Hate's a little strong.
Yeah, no, it's annoying. It's definitely annoying.
I think we should sort of switch it, like the UTC time to, I guess it would be an hour earlier, in order to keep like the local time the same.
I mean, the difficulty is, I think, that because of the time changes in the world, we can't help but, and then it depends on about your personal circumstances, but like, I have things like the rest of my family and school times and this, that, and the other that just mean that the combination of time changes over just means that I can't keep my times for things fixed throughout the course of the year. It's just not possible. But so I mean, you know, to a certain extent, it's about who has to adapt.
Yeah, I think. So I think we should not have to adapt so much, and maybe I sort of feel bad for the people who don't switch
right.
clocks. because then they have to. They're the ones. If we move the UTC time, they're the ones who really do have to adjust. Otherwise, it's all the rest of us. I don't know.
Yeah, no, we could see what happens with the. I'm like, when we're going to jump forward by an hour, we could see. I mean, I can never. I really struggle with working out in advance. Like after this time change that we have now, will something like that? We've currently got the. I must be able to work this out. We've got the Martin Fellscram at 12 noon UTC. So when I'm in UTC +1, that will be at 11 a.m. for me, I guess.
Yeah. So in order to keep things constant for us,
so then it could then, I mean, conceivably then that could fix it and it could still be at 12. Is that right? But see, then I said that, is that right? But yeah. I guess what we seem to be saying is after the UK time change, perhaps we can see how many of the things we can keep locked at their same UTC time, and then the things that stay at their same UTC time could have a consistent time all around the year, all year.
I'm not even really saying that. I'm saying like the Western people who do switch their clocks, just move everything on the UTC time. So it's sort of inconvenient for the system, AV system, that it is on UTC time. And therefore we have to switch all the events, if we want to keep our local times.
Right. Constant. Yeah, I think you and I, what you just said is the same thing that I said.
Okay.
That sounds like it is to me. Yeah, that we would keep them on the UTC time. And so those people who are in countries where the country's clocks are changing, those are the people who have to adapt more than the people who are just happily, in countries where there isn't a change, right?
So I think it's the opposite. I think if we adjust the UTC time of the events in order to stay constant, it's all the other people, like in Kenya, for example.
Yeah, that's what I was just saying. We want those people not to have to adapt, right?
Well, if we do that, then all the rest of us have to switch all our schedules. It's either them or us.
Right, and what I'm saying, I thought what you were saying was we should try and we feel sorry for the people who don't have time changes, having to put up with all of this gump because we do, and so I thought you were saying that the burden should fall on those of us who do have time changes, and we should minimize the impact for those who don't. But that's not what you're saying.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
So you're saying we should put all of the onus on people who, we should make it easiest for the people who are afflicted with time changes?
I don't know what I'm saying. I feel bad now.
Don't feel bad. I was interpreting it. I thought it was a great suggestion, but and I thought we were talking about the same thing. And now I'm not sure. But yeah, let's get to where we are in 10 days and look at trying to have the minimal negative impact on everybody.
That's not possible. Someone has to.
There's minimal negative impact. Okay. So clearly some people it's going to fall more severely on some than others, but let's do our best to make sure that we minimize it across the board.
And since we switch our clocks, it should be us, right? We should have to adjust.
That's what I sort of thought you were saying, and I wasn't. You said that. Okay. I thought you were saying it, and I was agreeing with it, but yeah. Okay, good stuff. Well, I've got the notes in the marketing channel. Good luck. Will you be in the Ethereum mob?
Yes.
Yeah, we'll have fun with that, and I'll catch you very soon.
All right, Tim.
Bye for now.
Take care. See you later. Bye.